What's going on, friends and DGens? How are y'all doing tonight? Glad to see y'all. Having a good time over here. Just loosen up, getting a little chicken picking practicing, having some fun with my guitar. We'll talk a little bit about that here in a few minutes. Wanted to grab a quick stream today with all of the ultra exciting price movement and like going on in the market. Obviously, last few days have been just outlandish. I think I saw us wick up to around 64 grand on BTC earlier today. So it's been quite the ride. We've seen some things come down. I want to acknowledge the whole Coinbase outage and the like. I saw Kraken had some tweets about that, like, hey, we're still running, we're still active, we're still good. From what I saw, Brian Armstrong was saying the unprecedented surge today took down Coinbase for a while. I don't know. I've got some mixed thoughts about the whole Coinbase side of things and potentially, in principle, they're a listed stock company with a bunch of independent audits and operational controls. So the idea that somehow, somewhere, some way, somebody might have accidentally shut down Coinbase for a period of time to prevent certain types of price movement, I don't know. I mean, how many of you out there realistically believe Epstein killed himself? I'm just saying, I got questions, Anyway, thanks all for tuning in. I see you got some friends and DGens rolling through the chat. Boogie, what's going on, brother? Got brother 64. What's going on, partner? Centurion, always good to see you rolling through. Paul, thanks for the support, man. Rock on. Brown, when hookers and cocaine, based on what we're kind of seeing in the market, who knows, man, might be sooner rather than later. Yeah. So somebody was asking me what my plans are when my bags hit. This was, I got some crypto acquaintances at work, the other folks who are in the space. I was like, cocaine hookers, lawyers to cover my lunatic behavior in the future, figure out the rest. I figure this is kind of my game plan. Get the bag, get some lawyers, get the NSX, get the cocaine and hookers, and then figure out the rest as we go. What are your plans? All right. So let's get down to some aspects of today's show. We'll get cruising right along. And first and foremost, I know BTC, again, had some crazy price action today. Let's take a quick look at what we got going for the halving. Throw up my screen, and we will go from there. All right, so the halving clock is showing we got about 49 days and some change. As soon as April 17th, I've seen other calculators where it's out to April 25th. Let's say we got 50 odd days, give or take, rolling through. Will, thanks for the support, man. Like, share, and subscribe. So about 50 odd days on the Bitcoin halving. Stuff is getting really, really exciting on that front. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that potentially are driving the price here. And I know we got a bunch of TA ninjas in the house. Certainly we got Boogie, Will, we got other folks that like to talk about TAFA. Go check out Boogie's channel. Go check out the DGen Roundtable folks. Always a ton of information out there that can be had. Once they are recovered from the course, certainly check out Dollar Cost Crypto's stream, Cultivate Crypto's stream. Follow us on socials and the like. We're just trying to bring you some good quality intel, alpha, and insights into the market. So BlackRock, no surprise, they own a little bit of everything, right? Their ETF is shattering inflow and volume records. Their holdings exceed 141,000 Bitcoin. I believe as far as ETF goes, they're like the Mac Daddy, followed by Fidelity at around 92,000. I'd have to go check current stats. Obviously, these entities have just been gobbling up Bitcoin. Many of them have been quietly accumulating on the side in years prior, but now they're just having the opportunity to be far more overt about it. So they had a record-breaking day with over 1.3 billion in volume as of roughly 6 hours ago. So that's probably yesterday that the day was calculated. other things like iShares, Bitcoin Trust has also had major days. For those not maybe aware of what is happening with some of these ETFs, if you look at like the top 9 or so ETFs, they collectively have gobbled up roughly 1.5, probably higher as of today, 1.5% Bitcoin of all the Bitcoin that will ever be in existence. So BlackRock has what, 4+ trillion under management, I think, on their side. So they're going to have a substantial influence. I know some of us have talked about whether or not we're selling aspects of our Bitcoin if we're profitable to throw into altcoins and the like. Full disclosure, I have sold the majority of my Bitcoin holdings to throw into altcoins. We'll see how history ultimately treats me in the grand scheme of things. I know the man, the myth, the legend, Lord Michael Saylor would probably admonish me. It's all right, I'm fine with how I played the game on that front, but they have 1.5% under control and they're continually trying to acquire more. I know on the lower end of things, I think Valkyrie has got the smallest holdings at around 3 to 4,000 Bitcoin. And then everyone else is kind of playing in the middle on that front. So again, they've got 1.5% of all Bitcoin in existence. I know, again, some of them have picked that up in on the side stealthily times prior. Some have been far more overt. I'm going to wildly oversimplify and say, hey, in the last, what are we looking at, 50 or so days, arguably the top 9, 10 of the ETFs that will be in existence for Bitcoin have gobbled up 1.5% of the supply in roughly 50 days. So food for thought on that one as you're trying to figure out your own crypto plans and your own paths forward for your own future benefits and growing your own bags. All right. I see we got a few killer comments here. Let me go see what's going on with the chat. Brown liking my lawyers, cocaine hookers, NSX plan. Paul, yeah, if it fornicates, floats, or flies, rent it. My man, Agent J passing through. Inflows have surpassed the first 2 weeks of inflows as of today. No shit. That's wild in one day. Again, they've just got the friggin' Hoover running overtime, snapping up all this stuff. Along those lines, found this particular article on Medium. This is a couple days old, so even not just at the speed at which this space moves, the info's already out of date. I just wanted to hop down here and highlight Bitcoin. Again, as of 2 days ago, roughly $5.6 billion of year-to-date flows. And you can see not just that. What I find interesting too is Ethereum clocking in at 51 million. Solana, okay, there's some other smaller ones, shorts on Bitcoin. Side note, I wonder if we're going to see more shorts given how hot we've run up, if the bears want to take a gamble and try to short given just how insanely hot we've been running. All right, cruising right along. Let's see what we got here. All right, so I was swapping a couple messages with Jay earlier today in the DGen Roundtable chat on this stuff, and somebody needs to go check on Uncle Peter on this stuff. Our dear friend Uncle Peter Schiff. We were talking about potentially contemplating denominating your bags in some different fashions. I know Charlie Miguel taught this to me and reminded me in this quarter's course. And we were talking about Jay and I and Nate and some other folks in the Roundtable chat. We're talking about, hey, why haven't my bags pumped? And look, different things are going to pump in at different times. We know there will be capital rotations, and yeah, Jay, I'm loving this one too, man. Somebody go check on poor Uncle Peter, right? One Bitcoin was $1. I think an ounce of gold back then was 1,900. Now one Bitcoin's 57,000, and 1 ounce of gold's about $2,000 on that. So, yeah, which one of us is really taking the L in the grand scheme of things? And okay, I said, I'm a little slightly skeptical. Memes are friggin' awesome. They're a shortcut to getting to people. They have a lot of truth to them. So I figured I'd pull up a Bitcoin to gold ratio, and I'll be damned. You can see going back to 2011 as it charts up and to the right, generally speaking, it's continually setting higher highs and higher lows. So very interesting stuff. Poor Uncle Peter. I suspect, what's it going to take for that guy to come around? Do you think he ever admits defeat? Is he like Mike O'Hearn, who's just always going to claim lifetime natural? We shall find out one day. Anyway, while I see other values in gold from industrial perspectives and like, it's there's no other game in town. That's why we're all in this space on that front. All right, cruising right along. Again, Bitcoin's just dominating the news. Found this one really interesting. Fidelity, in their all-in-one ETF, is allocating up to 3% in Bitcoin as an institutional crypto investing continues to be normalized through the ETF. So let me pull up my super nifty calculator. Apologies if you got background noise. My delightful German Shepherd has recognized I am talking for too much and has decided he wants to make a racket. Anyway, let me quickly share out the delightful calculator here, and we'll talk a little bit about some additional moon math type stuff. BitConnect. All right. So let's see. It is estimated, if you've caught one of my prior streams and I was talking about the ARK Invest report, still would when it comes to Kathy, is there's about 250 trillion estimated in the global investment asset base on that front. So let's see here. Too many freaking commas and zeros. This always crosses my eyes on this shit. Let's see. We got 250 bill. Cool. 250 trillion, right? Fidelity is offering 3%, and that's in their higher risk kind of all purpose fund type situation on this. So I'm assuming for argument, for argument's sake, everyone followed that kind of objective on that front. Brings us out to about what, 7.5 trillion? Yeah. And then for shits and giggles, 21 million Bitcoin ever in existence, right? $357,000 and some change per Bitcoin, assuming everyone follows Fidelity's aggressive investment in a 3% allocation into Bitcoin. If you go down to 1%, that number is going to work out to about 110, 120,000. So pretty interesting, right? Everyone's hopping on board. We're seeing 1% allocations, 3% allocations. Kathy and her crew recommended risk adjusted for 19.4% in retrospect based on calendar 2023. So regardless, all of a sudden that $100,000+ Bitcoin doesn't look so crazy this cycle, but doesn't mean we're out of the woods on everything here. I know there were some other interesting conversations running today. I was swapping some messages with folks in the crypto mindset groups. Again, side chatter on the DGen roundtable chats and the like. And one of the questions I found myself asking earlier this morning is, what if we are in a bit of a left translated cycle for the 4-year cycle? I think it's something that's worth discussing, at least amongst, the communities and like. A lot of us got caught with our pants down coming off the end of 21. I know that it was kind of like this hypnotic element of 100 grand Bitcoin, 100 grand Bitcoin. There was the super cycle narrative some of us got caught up in. In general, though, the community consensus was 100 grand. Okay, fast forward a few years later, we know places like FTX were working to deliberately suppress the price of Bitcoin and like, but let's just talk about the broader cycle. And so looking and poking around, I just wanted to see if anyone had similar arguments or theories. And I stumbled across this article. It is from October last year, so it's slightly out of date on some of the information, but the correlation here and the comparison was to the internet bubble. So I'll kind of briefly summarize the article on this stuff. The gist of it is that, according to this author, the 1986 was roughly the period of time which Microsoft went public. And so we know in the grand scheme of things, Microsoft is, still just a mega company, mega corporation, and arguably one of the biggest. And I know we can talk about like Alphabet Company or the Alphabet Company and Google and some other companies as well. Certainly one of the biggest companies of the whole .com cycle. So the argument the author puts forward is let me just expand this a little bit, is that some of these cycles tend to resemble very similarly to the Bitcoin 4-year cycle. And I think there's a question, we can talk about liquidity cycles, debt cycles, macro market correlations, and like. Point here, though, is if you look at from 86 onward, there's a fair bit of similarity in the underlying pattern to that. So they had effectively the first 3-4-year cycles look very similar to Bitcoin. And then they had an extended bear market where if you see over here, long dip, I'll just kind of keep quickly scrolling down, talking more about the Microsoft path. You can see here, once they hit that high, there's this expanded dip that wasn't broken again until 2021 from Microsoft. So again, open questions. I think it's interesting to look at the emergence of the dot-com bubble in these software companies because it was bright, shiny new technology. I certainly remember the days of really effectively nobody had internet. Then people started getting, what was it, like CompuServe discs and AOL discs and diskettes and shit. And you would plug in the phone line and stuff. And then high-speed internet started taking over. Now everybody's got internet with them at all points in time. And for many of us, it's really hard to conceive. Certainly if you're the younger audience, you may not even remember life, pre-smartphones and pre-internet everywhere. Anyway, the author does acknowledge there are some potential changes that have occurred relative to some of these different scenarios. One of the big things, obviously, was just the rampant money printing, 2020, and like. One of the other, I think, things that is certainly that came out after this article was written is the potential influence of the ETFs. So, quick detour. One of my favorite Twitter guys is, hopefully I'm saying his name right, Michael Gayed. It could be Michael Gade. He's at Lead Lag Report. He's got this great saying that always stuck with me. And that is, conditions dictate probabilities and probabilities dictate outcomes. I think everyone can agree that the conditions have fundamentally changed relative to Bitcoin in the crypto space by way of the ETFs and like. So to what extent has that changed some of the probabilities of outcome? So this morning, as you know, we're cracking 64. I'm like, man, it's a hop, skip, and a jump away to all-time high. Didn't quite break it today. We'll have to find out what happens if we do break pre-halving. So this article led me to this real convenient spot, whaleportal.com, where they got some Bitcoin cycle information in it for those of us who are too lazy to sit down and count out 60-day cycles. And then there's some other information relative to 4-year and 16-year cycles. So I'll throw that up on Twitter. Feel free to catch it in show notes as well on that front. And with that said, let me hop back over to the chat. Still woods when it comes to Kathy. You know it, damn straight. Till I die. Till I die. We got GC. When alt season? It's a good question, brother. I think there's a little bit of an argument that we kind of had like maybe a mini alt season. We'll find out. Typically it's a few weeks behind on the rotations. When $1 BTC, when they come out with the CBDC, US digital dollar ultra hyper elite deluxe edition and reset everything for us. We are now in a super duper cycle. I had the opportunity to meet Brown back at the most recent crypto mindset party. Super nice guy, fucking hilarious too. Dude made me laugh my ass off all night. So if you get a chance to go to some of these meetups and meet and greet with some of the communities, which side note, I believe Will cross-check and chat. I think you're going to be at the Pulse Chain Tour. I will be at the Pulse Chain Tour. If you see me walking around, feel free to say hi, give me a shout and the like. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make the Top Golf event. I am anticipating being there for the karaoke, the seminar, and the after hours event on Friday. All right, let's see what else we got going on today. One of the other things I want to talk about relative to Bitcoin as well is I was also just kind of looking through some ETF stuff. Vanguard, right? I know they're really conservative and they've stayed out of certain types of plays over the years on different fronts. I don't know if I'm a Vanguard customer personally, I'm kind of pissed off that you have effectively hampered or outright prohibited my ability to potentially catch 50% gains in the last 50 days, give or take, on that front. So really interesting, but little thing I didn't know until I started poking around today, looking for just some different pieces of information. So I think we can all agree that Lord Michael Saylor, first of his name, I think. Anyway, the king, arguably the GOAT, he's just got to walk in and be like my dick these days and just flex on all his haters. Because I remember getting mocked. Let's see. Just Will not be at the Vegas tour. Side note, go subscribe to Will's channel. And he's also got his, some info he likes to cover with his brother. Will, throw that up in chat and I'll give you a quick highlight and I'll link you after when I post up some additional show notes. Agent J telling me I got to uphold the stereotype. Hey, I'm a half breed. Yeah, I'm only half Korean. Hilariously, I think I've mentioned this before. I got a Hebrew first name and Italian last name. I'm African American from the waist down, very clearly part Asian too. It's a long story. All American. Anyway, so the scenario here is Vanguard, right? They don't have any sort of Bitcoin ETF, but in poking around, check this out. They are one of the top holders of MicroStrategy. So actually, they kind of have some indirect exposure to Bitcoin by way of Mr. Saylor himself. Fascinating. Also, you can't help but notice, hey, BlackRock's got a chunk of MicroStrategy as well, and a few other entities at lesser positions. So interesting. All right. Speaking of MicroStrategy, Benchmark has bumped them up to a buy rating based on their estimations and collective estimations that Bitcoin's going to reach 125K before the end of 2025, which is, let's say, more than double the price of yesterday's, I think, closing price was what, 54 grand, give or take. There's Will's channel. Give him a like, share, and subscribe. So coming back around to this, they're giving MicroStrategy a buy rating, which I think what is MicroStrategy charting at around right now? STR, I think it's like $900, $962, up 10% on the day for a traditional stock. A lot of that, of course, being the absolute Giga Chad balls Saylor had and saying, fuck it, he's just going to keep going in on BTC. All right. Drop this for a second. So let me do a quick detour here. Obviously, some of you know I was a musician, paid professional musician. Side note, being a professional musician, all it means is I got paid. That's it. Doesn't mean I won any sort of major awards. I fancy myself a pretty hotshot guitar player under certain conditions. Let me talk a little bit about some of the gear that you might have heard on the intro on this front. I featured this a few weeks back when I was a guest on the DGen Roundtable stream. This is a Reverend Eastsider guitar. It is my 2021 Eastsider T. It is one of 3 in the world in this particular setup, paint job, hardware configuration, and like limited edition. I was able to snap one up. Yeah. So it's got some shiny gold sparkles for anyone who's a picker player themselves. Volume, tone, kill switch, one pickup. This thing makes me work my ass off. It is not a particularly friendly or easy for me to play guitar. It doesn't quite fit my vibe in and of itself. Makes me work my ass off. Compound radius, fretboard, 10 to 14 inches. Let's see here. Anything else particularly noteworthy? It's Reverend's Talnico pickup, proprietary blend. I don't know what the extra sauce is. And you heard a little bit on the intro on that. All right, so here's my quick, I'm going to stealth in a hex reference on the musical side of things. In a musical, like traditional major scale, it's do, re, mi, right? So you got this. A lot of chicken picking in country is based around the interval of a 6th, 6 hex. So that sounds like this. When I start playing all the slippy, slidey stuff with 6, that gets you in that country chicken picking territory. So yeah, that's my hex reference. I play a lot of hexatonic scales, which are notes that scales that only have 6 notes in them. And yeah, so again, Reverend Eastsider T, little. All right, back to some more crypto stuff. All right, bring us down the home stretch here. A few other interesting tidbits in the crypto news space. Let me hop back over and resume that share. So good news for some Gemini customers. Hopefully, if I hope no one got wrecked with all the things that went down over the last few years. If you were, I guess in the grand scheme of things, I hope you're a Gemini customer. They posted a major earn update for anyone who was impacted by the Genesis collapse. And like, here's the crazy thing. If you were a Gemini earn customer, assuming, here's a big assumption, the bankruptcy court approves this, all earn users are going to receive 100% of their digital assets back in kind. Amazing, right? Whereas folks like who left some holdings on Celsius, I did take a little bit of a haircut. I left a few things on Celsius just to have like a side play earning yield. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. But in this case, these guys lucked out. If you are an earn holder, you are, again, assuming bankruptcy court approves the plan, you'll get 100% of your assets back in kind. So Celsius users got forcibly fornicated by the lawyers in bankruptcy court on that one, where you got a dollarized amount, massive haircut. So whatever you got kicked back was like a paltry fraction of your digital asset. Yeah, it might have worked out on the dollar side. Most of us wanted the original crypto back in this case. So they're actually, again, assuming plans approved, they're going to kick out 97% of your digital asset roughly over the next 2 months, with the remaining 3% to come in over the next 12 months. Pretty friggin' awesome. Kudos to whomever the lawyers were on behalf of the customers and clientele on that one. Let's hope the bankruptcy court approves that for the negatively impacted Gemini earn users. All right, cruising right along. One of the other tokens I picked up over the duration of the bear market was Ton Token. And I'm wondering if anyone caught the news recently over the last day that Telegram is going to launch an ad revenue sharing service next month using Toncoin. Now, full disclosure, I haven't gone deep enough to see if US users are going to be eligible for this or not, given some of the rules and regs for the country and the fact that some folks and some entities will not play in the US space until there's additional regulatory clarity. So I got a little more digging to do. But the good news is, at a high level, channel owners are slated to start receiving 50% of all revenue the company makes from displaying ads in their channels to be paid out in Ton Token on the Ton blockchain. So did anyone fucking catch that 144, 150% gigapump? I certainly didn't on that. I didn't have any, shame on me, I didn't have any Ton notifications set up to post back from Dex Screener to Telegram. I'm a Telegram friggin' user and I didn't have those notifications set up. Okay, I've learned my lesson, Ton Token. I will go set up some notifications a little later this evening. And let's see, we got a couple of quick comments. Let me hop over to chat. Brown, thinking of flying into Vegas, no room, fly back after 15 to 20 hours of degenerate behavior. You know what, man? I have been under a number of Las Vegas bridges, and I'm sure you can find some crackho that'll take care of you. I believe in you. Brothers digging the tone on the intro. Brothers, I don't know if you're using like any amp modelers at home for this rig, and obviously I got a bunch of different amps in the background that I don't necessarily have patched into the mixing board here. I'm actually using a Headrush, Headrush core unit with a combination Greenback 12 and Vintage 30 IR that I'm doing. So I actually got a combo IR on that. 2 separate IRs running in parallel. Did Gemini get a settlement from Silver and DGC? Or are they taking the L without getting anything from Barry? Good friggin' question. I have no clue, man. I was just excited to hear that effectively somebody can negotiate some tactics and do something on behalf of the negatively impacted customers, unlike some of the other entities where the lawyers are just filthily and disgustingly and overwhelmingly lining their pockets. All right, so home stretch here. Well, last thing I wanted to cover today is a couple of different. Oh, sorry, one more. Yeah, CZ. He died for our crypto sins in the grand scheme of things, and maybe some aspect of negligence in the grand scheme of things. But the judge in a case is ordered to turn over his Canadian passport and other travel documents. So clearly they're going to start putting some additional screws to him. I know he's got sentencing coming up, It'll be interesting to see what else is going to happen with him. I'm sure he will take the L. I expect him to do a little bit of time. He'll still be rich on the far side of things. What's kind of the joke, right? Like, if you take a loan or a mortgage, you got like 15 to 30 years to pay that back. If you go knock over a bank, what's it, like 10 to 15 years? So follow me for more not financial advice. Anyway, all right. So home stretch here. One of the things I have been contemplating myself and looking at is, I know Twinkie's going to show a chart. What strange world is this? Shout out to the guys from Rect Capital. I definitely swiped this idea from them. I do try really hard to give credit where credit's due. So go check out Rect Capital on this stuff. If you look at number of days from the halving to the corresponding high of that 4-year cycle, it was 518 days back in the 16 halving and 546 days in the 20 halving. Assuming history somewhat repeats, and again, this is just some stuff I am eyeballing. This is not definitively informing my future plans. It is part of what I am looking at that potentially puts us out at a 2025 high of somewhere in October to November on that front. So I'm going to continue to develop this idea. I'm also got a list of other market indicators I'm kind of eyeballing. Speaking of other market indicators, one of them is Google Trends. And so I've been looking at different things that may indicate, hey, we're approaching, euphoria, mania, because retail hasn't really showed up en masse yet. And it's inevitable they will. So this started to get me thinking on a few different things. Just for shits and giggles, I've only gone back to 19. Why 19? Google has changed how they capture some data over time, and they periodically make updates and upgrades. I was really curious. If I punch in Bitcoin, what does that look like as a search term? And so if you're looking at this graph, the 100 up here just means for this duration of time, that was the peak interest according to Google. So you can see some different spikes on this graph. And what are you seeing over here? Hey, it's starting to pick up right around, what's that? Looking January 7th to 13th. Okay, history quiz. What happened between January 7th and 13th? Bueller. We got the ETF approval on this stuff. So interesting, right? Uptick on the ETF approval, kind of grinding. Not as low as it was in some of the doldrums of 20, not as high as it was throughout 2022. Certainly not peaking like it was around May of 2021 or December 20, January 21. That's Bitcoin. Out of curiosity, let me throw in something like BTC and just kind of see what we get. Same block of time as a search term. Bitcoin peaked around, what do we got? Some window of time, August, September 2019 for BTC as a search term. Let's take a look at Ethereum. Same block of time. Okay, we got some peaks up around. I wish this was like cooler, like TradingView. May 21, kind of low and grinding relative to May 21. Let's see if we got any hits on ETH. Okay, ETH is a little more interesting. So people probably just punching in ETH. They might be using Google to cross-check current pricing, or maybe it's people more in the crypto space. Again, May 21, kind of all-time high. But we're seeing a little more action and traction over here. February, is that indicative of interest in ETH pricing having gone up? Is that maybe interest in the ETF? To be determined. Anyway, I wanted to bring you guys some updated alternate looks and some of the Bitcoin news going on out there in the market. We'll be talking more as I develop some of my game exit, time to take my chips off the table type scenarios and the like. This is what I want to present to you. Again, shout out to the guys at Rect Capital. Remember, folks, if you steal from one person, it is plagiarism. If you steal from many, it is research. And then the other one is using these Google Trends to eyeball some different terms to see what kind of potential euphoria or mania we might be approaching. All right, that's what I got for tonight. Let me flip through the chat one last time. All right, we got Barry, completely rigged Gemini and Gemini earn customers. Man, you know what? Celsius having weird outages. Epstein ostensibly killing himself. Elections. I can't put anything past anyone anymore. There's basically, I think the way it's becoming more overt, and either they can't hide it or they're choosing to not hide it. It comes down to those who have power and those who do not. And Brown saying, hey, I'll find a single mom on Section 8 that got her tax refund to stay with. Let her take you out for a night on the town, Brown. All right. That's all for this evening's show. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Thanks for the support, everyone. I know DGen Roundtable's got their Wednesday night stream coming up shortly. Go tune into them. Go check out Will Stevenson's show with his brother. They're really nice guys, super hard workers. I love their ethos and the like. And outside of that, we'll see y'all next time. Thanks for tuning in.